always try and utilize the experience of the board that you have, even if it may not seem relevant to the industry that you're in. Because people that have been around, and business skills are transferable. So someone may not be, you may have an investor that has come from oil and they're kind of investing in tech, say, and you're like, well, what do they know about, digitized plant home growing networks? All right? And people are doing that now, apparently. And it's like they may not know specific about that, but a lot of the general things about kind of business practices are quite transferable skill sets, all right? And they'll know stuff that you don't know if they've been around. We then, through the development phase, it's difficult to sell and develop at the same time, which is often, I think, in terms of, I think it's great to get out to market, but there is a difficult thing about when you do it. And sometimes, Guy Kawasaki always says, ship it first, fix it later. And I would kind of subscribe to that, but maybe ask yourself a couple of times before you're shipping it. Is it really ready now? And maybe give yourself a couple of chances. We, in the last stages in terms of running up to this, so we were trying to make it wireless and work with the iPad, and we ended up getting some help from another kind of business person who was like, why don't you just crowdfund the rest of this to accelerate what you're doing, and it's these new platforms. And our investors were suspicious of that at the time because it was these new things, and crowdfunding was kind of very much an odd thing to them as VC investors. They're like, well, how does this work? How does our equity? It's like, well, no, it's fine. We're just pre-selling product. We're just bringing cash forward, which is another really, really interesting thing of doing with crowdfunding. But if you're bringing that cash forward in your business, funding-wise, you have to make sure that where you've taken it from, there's something else to fill its place. Okay, so again, the long view. It's not just about the single campaign. And the one thing that I would say that I've definitely learned from crowdfunding is if it cannot be your only thing financially, then it will work better for you. If it's just crowdfunding that you're working with, then it can be incredibly difficult. And the point being, and if you don't make it onto in demand, or you're not able to kind of realize revenue after the point, and you're focused on shipping that and having to those customers supply them, that really puts you in a very difficult situation. It can really constrain your resources. So again, think about the long view. How are you going to, although you've brought that cash forward in terms of product, you're still going to have those things to deal with later. So thinking forward. So we ran a crowdfunding campaign thinking we were fantastic, and we failed quite dramatically, okay? Because one of the things that is important to know about crowdfunding, and I'm sure people from Indiegogo are watching now and they will crack down on me and Kickstarter, but there's a lot of stuff put around it marketing-wise about traffic and these kind of things. But one of the most important things that you can do with your crowdfunding campaign is ensure that the traffic going to your crowdfunding page is going to convert. The conversion rate on the visits is what really drives your ratings and helps with your publicity. If you get in fantastic PR and drive loads of visits to your site, it can effectively kill a campaign. So you have to be clever about how you do it. Have a landing page that is in between what you're doing PR-wise and your actual site to purchase and support. So people who are just generally interested can go and find out about it, and it's not as if they're really going to actually back it, that actually go to it. Happy to chat through things like that as well. Anyway, we did really well on the PR on the first one, not so well on the funding, okay? So we picked ourselves up, and the other great thing about crowdfunding as well, and this is, I think, really important on all sides of this, these things are so consuming to you. It's your life, it's your baby, it's your business. But majority of time, people, we did a crowdfunding campaign, and we thought, oh, we failed, we're not going to be able to do it again. It's like, A, no one cares, right? And next week, you will still be new. Unless you've had a really global, you've sold millions of units and then not shipped them or something, But majority of times, what you've done will be turned over so quickly, people won't know. And also, if you have kept people informed about what you're doing, they won't mind. And they will still support you. So we turned it around, we did another one, we learned quickly, we changed the way we did the PR, and then we've succeeded fantastically. Got what we needed, brought the product to market, and then we're late, really quite late, I think about 9 months late. But, I think, there's certain refunds that have to be made, there's certain things you have to kind of account for, but we kept communicating with the customers. And people run crowdfunding, but if you keep in touch with them, if you keep them part of that journey, because they're like investors, people who take part in crowdfunding, in a small way. But again, keeping them informed, let people know what you're doing. And the majority of the time, they're forgiving and they'll support you. And through that, we managed to do the development we needed. And then we got to the point where we were still working with Apple, and they came to us and said, would you like to launch this globally with us? We said, yes, please. But at the same time, an organization like that faces lots of challenges working. We're still a small company, right? We've got 5 full-time employees. We're based in an office in Leith. We still make the product in Scotland. Short run, low volume manufacture, very expensive. A lot of challenges. And working with someone like Apple who can turn around and say, well, we need 2,000 units next week. Can you do that? And you're like, yeah, of course. Like, how are we going to do that? Right? But you say yes or these things initially, but then you communicate. And by communicating with them and saying, well, okay, that's great. But as a distributor and as a channel, you say, well, look, but that presents certain challenges to us. And again, this idea of keeping people informed and saying, well, we can do that, but we're going to have to do it over we're going to have to ditch this over, we're going to have to spread it over 5 or 6 weeks. We're going to have to do various different changes. And again, even a company like Apple are like, okay, well, if you keep us informed, if you let us know what you're doing so that we can plan. And again, it's that trying to step back and appreciate the kind of ecosystem around you. Not just time-wise and financially, but the people that you're impacting on and the people that you need support from. And if you ask, 9 times out of 10, they'll give you the support that you need. And if you don't ask and you sit there in a sulk, then you know what? You're going to sit there in a sulk and be alone. But yeah, try and be aware of what you need. Ask for more, okay? Because it's going to cost more. There are things that you won't know. There's challenges you're going to face. Don't be scared talking about your ideas. Don't be shy about bringing them into the open. Not everyone is out to kind of rip you off. In fact, most people are doing their own thing, okay? But communicating and making people aware of where you are and also where you're trying to get to and what your ambitions really are. And if you are really ambitious, don't try and think, oh, I better temper this because people might not want me to be successful. Then maybe the investors won't believe me if I think we're going to do really well. And it's like, but that's what people want. That's what's required of you. And whilst it's important to be optimistic, try and inject a little bit, step back and get a little bit of realism now and then. I think I've probably spoken more than long enough. But I think we'll hang around for questions after. Is that the drill?
Do an expert panel.
In just a moment.
You're invited.
But the important thing at the end of all of this is that, so we're a small company, we're based in Leith, we've had various different types of funding, we've done a lot of stuff ourselves, had loads of help, and as a result of that, we're retailing globally with Apple. In fact, we're off out to Cupertino next week to go talk about some other things, some interesting projects, and it's all still made in Leith. So who'd have thought it? Eh? Thanks.
Cool. Right.
I can talk more if you want.
So I'm just going to give Patricia the heads up.
Okay.
And let's just do a quick Q&A.
Okay.
Why not?
No worries.
Just go with it. I'll see.
Right.
Questions from the audience. Sorry. By the way, I was listening to your talk. I don't want you thinking that I was kind of tuning out and being really rude, because I'm always aware of the fact that I'm kind of attached to my phone.
I assumed you were tweeting about how good it was.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was interacting with social media and it's because we've got the live feed and so on, we're getting a really good response. So just wanted to feed that back to you.
So questions. There was one here. Quick first, yeah.
You mentioned it's been 10 years of development, and over that period I was wondering, how did you kind of sustain yourself? Did you at some point this is my full-time job?
Well, so the original project started 10 years ago, and I was working in academia at the time as a lecturer in developmental psychology. So, you piggyback stuff off the research grants that you have as an academic. And you get the research grant for the thing you say you're going to get. And then you do all the other stuff. And then when it comes to near the end of the project, you do the stuff that you were funded to do. Isn't that how it works still? That's certainly how it worked when I was doing it, right? But there came a point in the research kind of world in that where we were trying to keep it going as a social, philanthropic kind of research kind of endeavor. And we couldn't get the money. And we said, we think we have something of worth here. We think we have something of value. We think it's going to make meaning. and people will pay for it. And so we quit our day jobs at the university and went for that. And there have been times we've been self-sustaining. There's a lot of things where we've managed to raise money and have funding and have salaries, and there's times when we haven't. But we've managed to maintain our staff through that. And again, even in terms of having employees, keeping them informed, making sure you're upfront and honest with them about the situation that you're in and what the plans are. You communicate with people, and you can make it through stuff. So, yeah, a range of different things. But that answers it. Self.
This might be a sensitive question.
Okay.
Something
I'll prepare it myself.
Okay. I'm thinking about some of